Start the recording? Great. Okay, so my name is Tom McKee. I'm an assistive technology person. I've been assistive technology for a couple, 3 decades now. And I'm also a special education teacher by background. I want to thank everybody who's coming in and coming in to be with me today and be with each other. I think that as many people have said, we're really in a major difference of trying to teach now. Assistive technology has been complicated by distance learning. And so it provides a lot of challenges. And I think that the idea of having people here today shows kind of an acceptance of that difference and a willingness to do the work. So I really appreciate that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and it's going to be a Padlet. You'll see it in just a minute, and you don't need to interact with it. You can just kind of use it as, view it as a slideshow. And if you do want to add to it, you certainly can. There's a link in the chat stream above near the top that shows the link to the Padlet. You can access it and participate in that by adding comments or liking posts or adding posts. But without any further ado, I'm going to share my screen and get to that Padlet. It's right here. Share. I'm also been having a lot more chance to practice sharing my screen and doing some sharing with everybody. Let's see here. I got to get to the Padlet itself. There it is. There's my Padlet. Okay, so a little bit about Padlet and a little bit about how this works. Over here in the second column, you'll see the survey responses. As Jerome said, we've kind of gathered the survey responses into some categories. And so I've done a little formative assessment, taking a look at those categories and tried to address those major themes in some of the posts that I've got around here. Okay, so what I'd like to do first is talk a little bit about Padlet, and what I'm gonna do here is expand this post down here. Oop, not that one. Yeah, I can do this one. That'll be good. Expand this post. Okay, all right. So the first thing that we can see here is that I went from a fairly busy screen to a focused screen. And I think for kids with disabilities, and particularly kids who are having troubles with reading and writing and troubles with organization and different issues like that, the idea of being able to take that busy layout and then focus it is something that's really good. The other thing that I can do is once I have this in in digital format. Now that we're working in digital format, it gives me access to tools. I would be able to change the fonts of how this is shown. I can change backgrounds, and I can also go in and I can use my text-to-speech tools, for example, and hopefully this will work. Click on that. All right, stop that. Okay, so right away you can see that providing things in digital format, which is something that we're going to be doing with distance learning, automatically puts you in a situation where you can start differentiating for students. You can give them lots of tools and strategies and different tools that we'll be talking about soon that will allow you to provide access to that. Another feature of using Padlet and using digital tools is that students can participate in a variety of ways. Okay, there are links to articles like this. An article will pop up hopefully soon. And the link is not popping up right away. There it goes. All right, there's a link to it. They can have access to articles. You can have access to, if I edit this post, you can can see that you can add link, you can access Google, you can access, snap a photo with your camera on your device, and you have lots of different ways to put in different posts for kids. So being able to provide multiple modes to kids through technology is another way to really differentiate and support learning. And in this case, right within one document. The other thing that we can look at through here that I really like is that you can have, it's organized by categories. So students can have some support for organizing in categories, that they can have ways to provide feedback right away. They can click on that. They can add a comment here. And the couple more things. One is that with it in this different format, it can be collaborative. So kids who need more time to think about something, they can take their time and then they can think of what they want to say. And then once they've thought of what they want to say, they can come over here and use their posts. They can use text to speech, speech to text. They might use a word prediction program. They might just want to put in a picture. So they can have lots of different ways of participating. So those are a lot of different differentiation things. Oh, also, they can look at what other kids have put up and like maybe they would copy somebody else's, but at least they're able to participate. So there's lots of different ways that using this particular tool. So that's my way of kind of introducing this Padlet tool as what we're using for today as an assistive technology tool. So we're using an assistive technology tool or access to assistive technology by using this particular tool. So, all right, that was a lot of talking. I need a sip of water. All right, so what I'd like to do is maybe start out with the idea of these are your survey responses. I want to cover what you've asked me to look at today. Engaging students in the learning process, getting them to show up, supporting them without that consistent face-to-face in-person time. Let me zoom this, like I said before. Whoops, expand this post. Getting them to show up, helping them with the lessons while they're doing it. It's really hard without that face-to-face connection that we're so used to being next to teachers, how to do that. And let me just move my picture here. Okay, while they're doing that, because the tech can sometimes be a barrier because we're not doing it. And so one of the things that we're adjusting to is this idea of asynchronous learning. That is, we're going to be teaching, providing materials and lessons, etc. At the same time, we can't be with them to teach. Okay, so those are going to be some things that we really need to be addressing. I'll be looking at some tools to do that. The other area that we've talked about is reading and writing supports, and then a big issue is access to tech. Okay, kids are having difficulties with access to hardware, access to software, access to differentiation tools, access to assistive technology, and access to internet. There's a lot of, those are really big issues. A lot of those are being addressed in a variety of ways, and maybe we can do a little brainstorming and I can kind of tell you a little bit about what some other teachers and districts are doing in those areas. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to look at is this idea here. I'm gonna expand this post. Okay, and here, this article here, I've provided a lot of resources, and I won't get to all of them today, but these are some resources and articles about distance learning and kids with disabilities and students with diverse learning needs. And I think that one concept I'd like to address is that with the schools closed, kids with disabilities are more vulnerable than ever. That is, you know, they, more than other kids even, are going to be relying on us, rely on us in general to support them in the learning process. They need a lot more guidance, they need a lot more supports, and without that, without us being there next to them, I really understand where people are coming from, where these kids are going to be more vulnerable. They're going to be affected to a greater degree than students with who can use technology easily, who have access to technology, who have basic skills for reading and writing and for math, and that they can kind of learn from on their own, almost sometimes in spite of the teachers. So I think that's why we're here today, is to take a look at, the equity of that, and how do we close those gaps? How do we support that? And the better we are with using a variety of tools, whether it's technology, whether it's being able to reach out using the resources in the community, using resources in the neighborhoods, the better we are that we can kind of address that. So we'll be talking about some of those things too as well. All right. So another step. I think that, I'm going to be talking, and just wanted to kind of let you know that if questions come up that need to be really addressed, Jerome might be responding to some of those in the stream, or he might interrupt me with something that needs to be addressed right away. So initially, again, we're going to be doing most of the talking, but if you're on the Padlet, you can kind of jump in, or if you want, keep posting the questions. Jerome will be looking at those for a Q&A part towards the latter half of this presentation. Okay, so I've got these things under general categories, and I'm going to slide over and show you the rest of the categories. I've got some curriculum resources. Here was a spot where people could put in what issues did your district solve already, or what are you proud of? What are you excited about that you were able to get done, that's able to meet people? Because I know we're going to be talking about, well, how can I do this? How can I do that? You could also, if you wanted to jump on here, what did you guys solve? So I have some links to some reading tools, some writing tools, math tools, and supports for students with multiple and significant difficulties. Those are all questions and things that people have wanted me to address. All right, so go back over here. All right. First thing is that the parents, okay, we've got new parents, we've got new partners to a much greater degree in this process. And some parents are going to be more on top of this, more savvy, and have more resources. It's just the way it is. And so one of the things is what can we do to support parents, and how can we support them? And I think the first thing we need to do, that we can do, is to really understand what the parents might be going through, and be empathetic, and to find ways to support them. One of the articles I put up here is this article from understood.org called My 5 Parenting Rules for Letting Go. And I'm going to open up that article. And we'll talk about that. I know that personally, I'm home, and probably as many of you are. We're home with kids. Some of us have kids with disabilities. We're trying to get some work done. We're trying to do kinds of things, and it's just really is a challenge for parents and trying to get things done. And so this article is really nice for talking about maybe this would be an article that you could share with families to help them feel supported, is that that the schedule can be changed based on the day. Try not to worry about screen time, because a lot of kids are going to be doing a lot of activities through screens, and so we understand that. How do we accept that, and how do we work with the students? Some kids are going to be more able to handle screen times. I've got a little guy in the room next door that has a difficult time handling screen time all the time, and we really need to kind of work with that. I've had to acknowledge that he's going to spend more time on the screens than he's had in the past, and that we have to kind of develop some schedules and work through that. We also try to make exercise and outdoor time a priority. We do get out every day. I think families need to kind of understand that they can do that. And we have to take care of ourselves. Everybody's mental being comes first, and doing my best is going to have to be good enough. And it's something I tell myself several times a day. And I think that as a parent, if parents are at home and they are not connecting maybe with some of these themes, it can be very challenging for them to kind of show up. It can be very challenging for them to connect with schools, and we can try to find ways to do that. So for example, I had a band teacher came up with this idea, who said that he started a Google Classroom for his students, and he was not getting very many responses to getting kids into his classroom. And so one of the things he did was he reached out to the students. He put a note into the Google Stream, the Google Classrooms, and said, "Hey, take a look at who's in our classroom. Everybody say hi, connect with us and say hello." And for kids who don't say hi, if you don't see some of your friends saying hello, give them a call, reach out to them, tell them that this class is going on. And just by reaching out to the kids, he was able to get a lot more kids to connect with the Google Classroom. So that was one strategy that the teacher was able to do to get families connected. And I think that we can reach out through our social networks, through Facebook, through through Google Classroom, through classroom emails, through school messaging systems and things like that, and encourage families to encourage each other to reach out and get to the classroom. So there may be a way to kind of do that, leave that as a volunteer kind of a thing for families to kind of help us connect with other families. Okay, back to my Padlet. All right. Parents may need help using the technology. I had, for my grandson, I've gotten a couple of supportive articles, Google Classroom, and some through email and some through both, that gave me very simple instructions for how to sign on to Google Classroom, what the expectations for kids using the technology is, and opportunities for teachers to connect to families directly through email and through other means, like Zoom, like Google Meet, and to just help them with the technology piece, both to give them permission to say, do the best you can, let your kids teach you, and or to provide some simple instructions, some how-tos, how-to videos such as YouTube videos for parents to get little walkthroughs for, say, signing on to a classroom. A couple of the websites that teachers and students and families are using to connect with are Zoom, Google Classroom, Flipgrid, Meet, ClassDojo, and Seesaw. Back over here, get this one to pop up again. This link to pop up again. One of the things that I'm doing is kind of against what I'm saying. I'm providing a lot of tools, suggestions that you guys might not be familiar with. And that might be because different districts are doing different things. What I would suggest is that you try to, as much as possible, keep things simple. Use tools that you're familiar with, or at least use tools that your district is familiar with, if you can. That way you will have some internal supports in your district for how things can be done. So if you're using tools, some Google Classroom tools and things like that, don't feel like you need to go out and learn a lot of new tools. If Google Classroom is working for you, keep using that. If you're just getting familiar with Google Classroom, keep using that. If you're using Google Classroom and you're finding you're missing something that you want to be able to do, or you've heard of another tool, if that's in your comfort zone, then go ahead and start out there. Reach out to maybe taking a look at Flipgrid. My grandson's classroom teacher was not particularly familiar with Google Classroom or Flipgrid or those kinds of things. So what she did was she started to use them. And she had a support person in her classroom from her school join her in Zoom. And then that person who was familiar with Zoom was able to both show her and the student at the same time how to use that tool, just to kind of refresh her of how to use that. He introduced Flipgrid to the classroom, and now she does Flipgrids with the students. So using familiar tools, that is tools that are familiar to you or someone in your district that you can work with closely with, and as you slowly tools. Because I think that like I've been involved with some other Google Classrooms for my grandson's school, and I can see just tons of activities and tons of things coming at them. And even with me, with a lot of familiarity with this stuff, I can see how it could be. It seemed overwhelming, and so I think that in order for us to support families, support students, and support ourselves, we got to kind of at this moment in time keep it simple and pick a few things and try to do those well, at least to start. One of the things that I've noticed, what I've heard people say is that while we're learning all these new tools and we're keeping it simple, we can remember that we're learning new and helpful tools that we'll be able to use going forward when we teach. So if you hadn't used Flipgrid in the past and you use it now, that's now going to be another tool in your toolbox. So we're all learning a lot of new things, and I think that's great. Okay, let me take a sip. I got to keep an eye on the time here too. Okay. Wow, half hour already. Oh my goodness. All right. Let me jump into a couple of other things. So one of the things that I like to do is use a variety of tools that can be differentiated, okay, for students so that I can use one tool that can be used in a lot of different ways. Okay. So for example, I have a link, I have a list of activities here for differentiating in Google Classroom. Some people were saying that they have Google Classroom, but they're not getting any posts that they don't know how to differentiate them. And so here's a few things that you can do in Google Classroom to differentiate in Google Classroom. One is that you can reuse posts from the Gen Ed class and then differentiate them and assign modified assignments, assign modified documents or rubrics to specific students or groups of students. Okay, and so I can probably jump right out to Google Classroom. I'm not going to do that right now. But if you look up reuse posts, you can reuse posts from one class into another class. So you can reuse posts from a lot of different sources. Sometimes I've had teachers create Google Classrooms for groups of students who need less busy streams and unrelated assignments that are to the other group. So you can just give them a different class. And then if you look at how the streams are organized, you can organize them in different ways so that it can focus kids on what they need to get done. One of the things that people might not know about Google Classroom is if you provide due dates in the Google Classroom, it adds them to the calendar. So that was one more tool for helping kids to stay organized. So I'm going to try something now. This is a site. Several people had looked for resources for kids with both reading issues and for kids with who are English language learners. And I'm going to go over to a program called Unite for Literacy. And show you this program. This is a program for early learners, early readers. It has a nice collection of stories that are written at a very low reading level. They also have human readers, which make version. And you can also, for the English language learners, you can go in and you can choose a variety of languages. Okay, so in terms of the narration languages, here are the narration languages. So we can pick something like, say, it's already in Spanish. We'll just leave it as Spanish. Okay, and so these books here, because I filtered them for English and for Spanish, are all going to have English and Spanish narrations to them. So I can just pick this one story called Earth Day. And I can hear the story both in English and in Spanish. Okay, all right. So that is a really nice resource for early readers that have that read to me books, and they can be done that way. Okay, so let me go back to my Padlet. Another resource I like these are some other reading programs that I like that both have text-to-speech and human audio in their online programs. Reading A to Z, Epic, Unite for Literacy, and Time for Kids. And also, if you have text-to-speech programs, narration programs, and like I said before, Snap and Read is over here. When I'm in a book, I can click on a book and read to me here. Oh. Click that over here. We did that already, so I don't need to spend time on it.
Hey, Tom, 1 second.
Yeah.
I got a couple questions here about Unite for Literacy.
Yes.
First of all, is it free?
Yes,
and
free.
Second of all, is there a way to correlate it with grade levels?
Like it is not. Yes, they are not organized by any kind of reading level or grade level, but they do have some books that are a little more complicated than others. But it is a free program.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Here's a couple of these reading. This particular program here is called Epic. Let me just expand it. Epic is called. It's called getepic.com is the reading program. Okay, didn't really do that much. That program there, you can filter Epic by reading levels. That one can be filtered by reading levels. And Newsy LA, of course, is another one that can be leveled by. Let me just add Newsy LA to this. Oops, wrong button. Newsy LA also can be leveled. And that is for lots of articles on current events, other topics like science and ELA and social studies. All right. Jerome, anytime you want to interrupt me with questions, you can. I'll just kind of keep going.
All right. So do kids need to log into Padlet? Do they have to like create an account and log in? And what's the easiest way for them to do that?
Okay. To log into Padlet, all you need to do is to provide them the link, and then they can log in and they're done. They're in it. They don't need to have an account for that. They can just log right into the Padlet. A couple of features to know about Padlet is that the posts can all be moderated. That is, you can see the posts before they go up. You can make the posts completely private. You can make them anonymous, or you can make them have the kids' names attached to them.
Can read A to Z read in Spanish?
Can reading A to Z read in Spanish? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that one.
Yeah, I didn't know either.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that one.
What are some tools that you would say really provide a lot of flexibility for like differentiation?
All right. Well, some of the tools that I really like for differentiation are listed over here. Let's see. These are tools for distancing. We've got Nearpod, Edpuzzle, Unite for Literacy, Book Creator, the Newsy that we had mentioned before. Those are all activities that are pretty popular. They're very easy to use. They integrate with, for the most part, except for Nearpod and Edpuzzle, they integrate with Google Classroom. Edpuzzle is a great one. Let's move this here. I'm going to pop up this Edpuzzle window here. Yeah. This is an Edpuzzle that someone had done, which is basically, I'll back up in a minute and show. It's a video that someone maybe got off of YouTube, or in this case, it was through Wiki Commons, and they were able to go in, and then you can trim the video to whatever section you want. And then once the video is created, you can add your own individual questions. So I'm going to start this video, and you can see down at the bottom, there are a number of spots where someone has stopped the video and added their own questions. So I'll just show you how it works. All right, so it played the video, say from a YouTube source or something else, and then it stopped. And then the students would have to have a chance to ask a question, and maybe they could, this particular case, they can do multiple answers if they want, and then they submit it. And then once it's submitted, they can then, oh, looks like I got it wrong. They can then continue to the rest of the video. It'll play for a little while, and then it's going to reach to another spot where it'll stop again. Okay, and you can have open-ended questions. You can have just a comment. You can put in a note that says to think about something. So you can really take that YouTube video that you're used to using and then make it very interactive. So one of the things that people had, many of the people had asked, was about the whole idea of feedback and be able to get feedback to the students. And how do you do some formative assessment? How do you do some post-assessment? These videos can be done pretty easily for that, because you will be able to see all the answers that the kids provide to this particular this video. You can set up grade books with a higher level version of this, but a lot of this is also free. What you can do with this is free, but you can see the answers. So if you could do a little pre-assessment, have them watch the video, answer some questions. You can then give them some feedback on what they said, or you can give them another article or video to watch, and then have them take the quiz again. And so you can kind of get that feedback loop going. Let me go back to my Padlet. So,
Tom, can you do a similar kind of quick overview of Nearpod?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So in Nearpod, let's see if I can do this here. What have I got here? I was signed into this a minute ago. All right, so there's my account. Which window do I want? Got a couple different Nearpod windows. Nearpod is kind of like slides, except that you get to do your own This is the show I want right here. And I'm going to, oop, that's not it. I'll do it this way. There's Nearpod. And I'm going to go back to my, apparently I'm going to have to sign in again. Oh, I'm in already. This is kind of in my way.
Hey, Tom, you got some background noise going on over there.
Oh, okay. Let me get, that's my grandson. Hey, I was hoping this would happen. Wait, here we are. We're working from home and we got some distractions going on. Let me see if I can just tell him to turn that down.
Thanks. Bear with us 1 second. Sorry, guys.
Oh.
I'm sure you've all been there.
Hey, I'm back. All right. I apologize for this delay in this showing this presentation. I can go over here.
No worries, Tom.
All right, here. This was actually worked earlier.
Tom, does Nearpod connect to Google Classroom as well as Edpuzzle does?
Yes, it does.
It does? All right, good.
Yeah. All right, so if I do this live lesson here, let me start a new one. This is me starting as a teacher. I'm starting a live lesson. And this is my code right here. That I can do this. And then if I go, I've got both a teacher view and a student view here. Okay, and I'm going to enter the code there. I'm going to get the student logged in by adding that code. Okay, go back to the teacher view and move that window over here. Move over. There we go. So this is a student view. I'm going to sign in as me, join that session. Okay. All right. So a couple of things here. So you can see on the right is the student view, and on the left is the teacher view. Okay. And you can actually do this from a smartphone if you wanted, or you can do it from a tablet, or you can do it from your desk. And that when I switch the slide, when I click this slide here to change the slide, this student slide slid as well. So I can keep them with me. So I'm interactive. So if I had a group of students interacting with me, and they can be interacting any place as long as they're connected to me via the internet. So they can be in multiple homes doing this at the same time. And what is your favorite season of the year? There it is. I'll just pick one. I'll pick spring, and then I'm going to submit my answer. It's got it. Now over here, it just showed up. This student Tom said spring, and so I could have a bunch of. I got duck season and rabbit season. I don't remember doing that. You could have a bunch of students responding, and then as soon as I've got enough students responding, I can then share that out to the group. Just like that, that's what the students are going to see what's here on the right, and they're going to see all the answers of what all the kids have said. You can leave this anonymous, you can leave this moderated posts, or if you've got the kids cooking and you know what you can do, and they don't care if their names are up in it. A lot of kids will like, oh, I want my name on there, I want my name on there. They can do that too. So one of the things that we were talking about is this whole feedback loop. Okay, this can be done either as a standalone activity. Oh, Diana Smith is joining my class. It can be doing this as a standalone activity, or it could be as a collaborative activity at the same time. And at the end of the activity, you will have to be able to collect that. You'll be able to see all the individual students' answers and all the products that they created along the way as permanent products and data that you can then select. Okay. In the course of this, you can have pictures, you can have you can insert videos. this particular activity is a collaborative activity. Okay, I can say I want to approve the things there. So if I, as a student, if I go in here, I can make a post like this and put my post up there. That's now shared with the whole classroom. Okay, excuse me. And now we have basically a virtual Padlet within this particular activity. And again, all this information can be done either as a standalone activity, as a collaborative activity with multiple students, no matter where they are, and you get to collect all the information. So I'm not sure what else I put in here on this particular Padlet. Oh, look, somebody's put in that's probably Diana. All right. This is show what this activity is. Oh, there's an example of a Padlet. Okay, so you can insert Padlets within these things. You can insert PDFs, you can insert videos, you can insert the big 360-degree websites and of museums and things like that, walkthroughs around museums. And okay, let's get out of this. So that's Nearpod.
Hey, Tom, I got a few more here.
Okay.
Let's start with, what is a good text-to-speech tool that is universal? And I'm interpreting universal to mean works with Google and maybe works with Mac.
Right. Yeah. Well, a number of let's see if I can get back to my Padlet. I'm going to go full screen on my Padlet again. Okay. Reading tools, text-to-speech tools include down here, include things that are built into the operating systems, Apple, Windows, Chrome, they have programs. And then two that I'm pretty familiar with. One is Snap and Read by Don Johnston. And the other is Text Help, Read and Write for Chrome by Text Help. Let me edit those two up there. So, all
right, here's next one. Do you have any favorite math online resources for, say, grade 8, or maybe broaden it out to middle school, like middle school math online resources for special ed?
Well, is that MAP or math?
Math, sorry.
Okay, so it's M-A-T-H?
Yes. Sorry.
M-A-T-H, okay. So under math tools, I think that some of the math tools that I like are Khan Academy, because they're very structured. They just take it step by step. They're like just the facts, ma'am, kind of an approach to math. They have video tutorials. Kids can watch them over and over again. They can use their reading tools for reading the math that's in the questions. And so that's one thing. Another math tool I like is called Equatio, and that's by Text Help. And what's nice about it says it's equation, it should be Equatio. What's nice about Equatio is they have multiple ways to input the text. You can type the text in, you can speak the text, speak the math in, and you can then listen to the math as well. So if you typed in, if you said to Equatio in the Equatio bar, if you said a squared plus b squared equals c squared, it's going to write that out as a math equation for the student to then insert into the Google Doc. They also, both Equatio and Kami, have the math accessibility tools where if you click on the symbol typer, the symbol icon, you can then type with math symbols.
All right.
A couple of I want to mention up here is that Edpuzzle and Google Forms also have the access to math symbols, and you can also click and paste in for Edpuzzle or for Google Forms, you can paste in mathematical images and or put links to videos inside Google Forms to have kids be able to answer questions. So you can support different learners by putting in those different accessibility features. Kami is a math editing tool, so kids can use tablets such as a touchscreen Chromebook or a touchscreen iPad, and they can write on a PDF, and they can either draw, write, or type the math right in there.
All right, you ready for the next one?
Sure.
Sure. Do you have any tips for using AAC in sessions for teletherapy?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that depending on the student that you're working with, you're going to have to have some support at home. So if the student is a student with multiple significant needs, obviously they're going to need a caregiver with them, and it provides an opportunity for doing some online coaching with parents or caregivers through Zoom or through Meet. And so one of the things that you could do a quick lesson plan with the family, send them home what you want them to be able to do. So whether it's using a PECS-like program, or whether it's using something like Protocol to Go or Words for Life, you might need to do some online coaching. I've got a couple of students that teachers are working with that use communication devices, not because they have significant cognitive needs, but maybe that they are maybe selective mute, or maybe they have verbal apraxia, and those kids can get lots of practice using their devices through Zoom or Meet with video chatting that way. The other thing, AAC devices, the other thing I would think of doing, I've got it down here, is that I would contact your device reps. There's lots of support groups for different devices that our families are having lots of participation in, and putting out a question in some of those groups gets you some really good ideas pretty quickly through some of those. Okay, I hope that answered that question.
All right. Do you have any tools that you would recommend for maybe some English language learners?
English language learners. The first person I would reach out to in your district would be some of your English language learner teachers. And if you're the English language learner teachers, you're probably looking for the answers to that question. So if people call you, you'll know what to tell them. Some of the work I've done with the English language learner teachers in school is of course, using something like Google or Microsoft Translate. Actually, one tool I just thought of is that there's a program called Seeing AI. Let's see, is that the program I want? I think I'd have to look at it. You can look up Seeing AI. You would use your smartphone or an iPad, and you hold your device over the text, and it can take a picture of it. And I think, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, I think that once you've taken a picture of it, you can then use Google Translate to translate the text with something like Seeing AI or some other program that let me just open up my Seeing AI. That some other program that does the translation of text to speech. I'm going to open up Seeing AI real quick if I have it on this iPad, and just see what the categories of stuff I have is. There's Seeing AI. I'm opening it up on my iPad. Okay. I haven't opened it up in a while. Skip. Get started.
Short text.
Yeah, they don't have they're not listing a translation tool here. Oh, it does say English though. Yes, short text language. It recognizes language. I think you can see this here. It recognizes oh, switched. it recognizes a variety of languages. So that seeing AI would be able to take a picture of language in a variety of languages. And I think there might be some translation kind of a factor. That would be one thing.
Okay. We had a question about, is it possible, whether through Zoom or Google Meets, and to be able to play a video while having your own microphone on and, like, I guess, provide some commentary?
Okay, I'm gonna have you repeat that in just a minute, Jerome. I was just thinking about the last question. There is a program through Microsoft and another program called Streamer that will do simultaneous captioning and translation. It's not cheap, and it takes a little setup. And it's working, but we're doing that with some of the kids in some of the districts that I'm working in, where they need because of the hearing impairments, they need the captioning, and because of the different language, they need the translation. So Microsoft Translate and Streamer is a separate program. Those are two programs that are like really high level programs that will do that. Okay, so I wanted to get that out. So can you repeat that last question?
It looks like someone in the chat answered it. Evidently, it is possible to play a video and speak at the same time in Google Meet, and I guess Screencastify is another good tool for that.
Right. And Zoom has a I'm not sure where I put that. Zoom has a side-by-side feature, and I'm not sure where I put that link on my Padlet, that lets you have your video chatting going on in one side of your screen, and then you can share your screen on the other side. And I think that for a lot of teachers, the idea of wanting to be able to see their students while they're presenting is really important. And so that's Zoom has a side-by-side feature. The Google Meet, it wasn't as clear that I could do that, and that's something I'm still looking into.
Here's something that I just thought of. Do you have any tips for, working with parents on some of these apps that might have a bit of a learning curve?
Yeah, my biggest tip is to keep the tools simple as much as you can. Don't try to do too many tools at once with the student or the family. If they're on the learning curve going up, especially the parents, the teachers might be ahead of the students. The students might be ahead of the family. But many of these programs have very short and very good tutorials on YouTube. So if you're looking, for example, if you are a Bookshare user and you want the families to know how to open up a book in Bookshare, there's going to be a 5-minute video either on the Bookshare website, YouTube, the YouTube channel for Bookshare, to show them how to do that. So you can ask them if they want a written instruction, or if they want a video instruction. Give them some choice of how they want to learn. Maybe send them both. And I think that the one thing I want to just say to kind of tell people is that, going back to the whole idea of keeping things simple, one of the biggest challenges that people are going to find is time to get the families up on running, to get the students going. It's a huge balancing act, and I certainly respect the challenge that provides. And so hopefully the short videos would kind of provide a little help for that, where you can say, watch a short video, see what you can do. Parents can choose exactly when to watch those videos. They can take the 5-10 minutes to do that, to practice that a little bit. And then when you get together with them, they might have a better understanding about how to do it, or maybe they can have the students to help them at that point.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions that you want to send in here that we can address in the last few minutes we have? How much time do we have? Consult the clock. We got about 5 minutes.
Okay. One of the things that I've been doing with my grandson here at home is is not all kids are going to want to be on these screens all the time. They still might have to have activities to do, but then to share them with their teachers. That's where programs like Flipgrid come in. That's where taking photos of things can help. Do some online learning activities. My grandson just walked in the kitchen. Do some offline learning activities. You know, do some things with Legos. Do some things with paint, and do some things with you know, outside sidewalk chalk. You know, and then take pictures of those things and then upload them. Take some videos of those things and then upload them to the Google Classroom or to your teachers, and have other ways of engagement. Some kids are going to be much more engaged in doing something with blocks or Legos or dominoes or something like that, in order then to just sit there and read and do a worksheet that's on the screen.
Do you have any low vision resources?
Low vision resources, yeah. Oh, let me go over here. One of the it depends on what you're trying to learn, have the students do. But Bookshare is a great source for print materials for kids with low vision, because they can get them in a Braille format. They can get them in, they can modify and change the font for things. They can get speech to text. They can have simultaneously speech to text and text in front of them, and speech to text, text to speech, I meant. And then there's over here on this page here, there are activities. Did I put the vision stuff? This Rose Hill School has activities for kids who have multiple disabilities. The idea of Help Kids Learn has some low vision activities for kids with significant cognitive needs. And then, you know, check in with the like programs like the Texas School for the blind and visually impaired. They have some of those programs. Some of those sites have technology sources for those kids. If you are doing things with, say, AAC devices, they will also have access to changing the screen, as well as like iPads and Chromebooks have built-in accessibility features for students with visual impairments.
All right. Here's what are your favorite platforms for doing a read aloud for students?
Oh,
that can be shared with Google Classroom.
Right. Well, you can record a Zoom. You can record do Screencastify. There was, I think somebody said something about screen magic or screen magic or something. I couldn't remember what that is. I also would, for me, I could just use my iPad and, you know, record myself with an iPad through the video, and then share the video link to that. You can share your video link to that. You can upload your video of yourself to Edpuzzle, and you can then do a little app smashing, where you take your video from your iPad, smash it with Edpuzzle, and while you're doing your read aloud, you can have it stop and ask the kids a question for them to reply back. So it's not just watching the video; they can actually, you know, maybe interact with your video. So you can do the read aloud and say, "What do you think's going to happen next?" or "Why did he do that?" And so kind of app smash a little bit with your read aloud and your Edpuzzle.
All right. Can Unique Learning System link to Google Classroom?
Unique Learning, that's with like the News to You and some of those programs. I'm pretty sure that I've got teachers using Unique Learning, and they are pushing out activities through Google Classroom. I wouldn't say 100% on that, but I'm pretty sure that anything that you can say, a lot of those activities can be downloaded as PDFs, and then you can share those PDFs out through Google Classroom and have them either edited in something like Snap and Read, or text help read and write for Chrome or Cami or some other editing way to interact with that activity.
All right, so it looks like we're at 5 o'clock right now. We're out of time, but I will send everyone the recording.
Okay.
If you have questions, you can email me at jasteele@casdany.org. I can pass them on to Tom, or you could email Tom directly at tmckee@casdany.org. When I send out the recording, I'm going to be including the chat, because there are a ton of great resources that were shared in there. I think I said it in the chat, but one of the best things about these webinars is the resources and the support that you guys provide for each other. Other than that, I think, thank you for coming on. Thank you for all the efforts on behalf of your students, and I will be hitting up your inbox in the morning. So have a good night and have a good weekend. And
Thank you very much, everybody.
Moving forward.
Yep. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope it was helpful.
Yeah. Tom, great job, Tom.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.